My mom wants me sent to military school so she can defend my sister when she steals from me. Happened when I was 14 years old. I would say my parents' divorce was finalized around a year ago. Without fail, my little sister would frivolously squander her stipend. With regard to hot topic clothing, video games, mall food, and cosmetics in particular, my dad had me work more for my allowance by cleaning the home and performing yard work than my sister did, even though she also received an allowance. My sister would never help out around the house unless dad was around to monitor her. Unless it was to tidy up her room, my mom never imposed any sort of job on her. I did odd tasks around the area, including mowing lawns and collecting trash cans to redeem for 5-cent deposits, to make ends meet. I was saving up for a scooter so I could ride about town at the time. In the span of 2 years, I saved up around $2,000 by working odd jobs and saving the majority of my stipend. It was not simple to accumulate that amount of money. The primary reason being my sister. Every small spot where I stashed my cash was known to her. Would also take advantage of it by stealing from it. The following is an excerpt from what I recall that serves as an overview. Excuse me, sis. Once again, did you steal from me, sis? Is this sis anyway? Also, no. When she was found lying, she would stutter. A horrible liar, you are. My savings account is missing $100. Sis. Stop bothering me. It was not me. Flees to mom while acting out a false cry. My dear. My brother is bullying me. My savings were once again plundered by her. Mom, she says, her fingers clapping in an angry manner. You should be able to tell that mama's little child is sad. Just because she denied doing it doesn't mean she didn't do it. And it is the complete and utter truth. Therefore, I will ground you if you refuse to let this go. It was her. And I know it. I will enlist my father's assistance if you are unable to recover the funds. There is absolutely no need for it, Mom. Plus, there's no evidence that she actually stole your funds. Yeah, I do. For every dollar that I put into it, I maintain a record. Forex was the sum 3 days ago. Zai is the only one left now. Someone took $100. Not to mention the several times she has taken money out of my savings account. In addition, I am aware that my sister has used up her whole stipend for the month. You still took her shopping yesterday, though. Mom, where did she obtain that cash? You know what? Mom scowls after a few moments of thought. The earth under your feet is holding you steady. If you don't retreat to your room, I'll take out the belt. Though I could have continued to debate the point, if there was anything I took away from my time at that place, it would have been to know when to dial my dad's number and end the conversation. To end our conversation, I stormed off to my room and banged the door shut before saying goodbye to them. Afterwards, I retrieved my ancient brick-shaped Nokia cell phone and called my dad at his office. Because he didn't answer, I had to leave a detailed message. He promised to resolve the issue and returned my call around 1 hour later. I was startled to hear my mom's ranting at my dad from the kitchen as soon as the landline home phone started ringing. From where I was in my room, I could only make out my mother's attempts to defend her behavior. When she was wrong, though, that strategy failed miserably. Finally, she lost it and started shouting something like "fine" at the top of her lungs. You are able to repay her if she did, in fact, steal the funds. Reason being, she has already spent it. You little ingrate, I can't believe you ratted me out. My mother screamed at me as she ripped open my door. There must be a way for you to compensate me monetarily for all the work I do for you. I take it you're saying my sister took it? My mother scowls. And you know what? Not to me. Boys require less money than girls. Giving it to her is the right thing to do anyhow. It was a pittance. You are aware that it wasn't a little amount of money for me. $200 were taken by her. If it were only $1, I would still demand its return. It would be unfortunate if someone were to take money from your wallet. No difference if my sister takes from me. You are aware that she is guilty. Plus, I'd prefer it if the money was repaid in some form. I put in a lot of time and effort, but she didn't. My little one is exempt from all chores, Mom. Indeed. She is a princess. And should be treated accordingly. That isn't an issue for me. She is free to be a princess wherever she pleases, apart from me and my possessions. Mom. That's all. You stupid dweeb. It's going to be me versus you. I stood up straight in front of her, looking her in the eyes. Since I was 14 years old, just as tall as she was, and reasonably strong from all the outside labor I had been doing. You won't be allowed. Due to the fact that I was completely blameless. After a brief moment of stillness, my mom unleashed a piercing scream. I can only imagine how hurt she was when she swung her arm too low and struck my dresser, rather than the object she was trying to knock off. While grinding her teeth and giving me an angry expression, she clutched her hand in an attempt to contain the agony. After that, she just walked out, turning around to go. She made quite a scene, screaming and hitting the wall as she stomped down the hall, down the stairs, and into the kitchen, where she would do what she always did when she wasn't satisfied: get drunk from her wine fridge. From her bedroom door, my sister was observing me. She gave me a terrified glance before hurriedly returning to her room and forcefully shutting the door. She was able to get away with the things she did to me because of Mom. Plus, that was shifting fast. I was informed that I was not grounded when, a few hours later, my dad escorted my sister into my room to see me after he had gotten her to confess to stealing from me. Throughout the whole process of having her apologize, Sis would not even look at me. At first, she did it in the most low-pitched, screechy voice imaginable, but as my dad pleaded with her to speak up, she eventually started nearly shouting. My sister was suspended for a week, and her stipend would be used to compensate for the money she stole, so my dad gave me a $100 bill. She then began sobbing and slammed her dad before bolting to her room. While my dad worked, my mom drank her favorite wine on the back terrace and paid no attention to anything. We are all. Instead of apologizing, she pretended the incident had never occurred on many occasions. In any case, my sister will still receive her next allowance. Even though my dad always handed it to her, that time it was my mom. My dad took a day off from work a few days later, and we went shopping for a safe for my money and other little treasures. Neither my mom nor my sister was informed that I was infected. A 4-digit code was already programmed. The code I used at the time was 4962, if memory serves me right. I secured the safe and placed all of my valuable possessions inside. Affix it to the furthest corner of my wardrobe. A few weeks later, I returned from mowing the lawns of some neighbors to discover that someone had broken into my room. My sister had messed with my room, so I contacted my mom to notify her. It was Mom's turn to deny it. This is not what my baby did, Mom. Done a good job of me, then? No, Mom. The room was spotless when I departed, so it had to have been one of you. Mom, clearly irritated by being caught in the act of reasoning. Okay. What does it matter if she actually did it? Being unkind to her was inevitable nevertheless. Left in a huff. After leaving a second message on his work answering machine, I contacted my dad once again to explain what had transpired. I proceeded to my sister's room and informed her that I had knowledge that she was responsible for destroying my room. I informed her that I had locked my money away in a safe, so she couldn't access it anymore, even before she tried to respond. Because of that, she had a complete breakdown. Mama Bear, ever the villain, rushed to her rescue. While my sister screamed in her room for what seemed like 20 minutes, I returned to my room to clean up after telling her she couldn't touch my money anymore. Everything was merely tossed and strewn around. Nothing was actually destroyed or lost. I gathered everything and returned it to its original position. To be honest, I'd never felt anything like that when cleaning my room. However, it was torn up again the following day. My window was also smashed this time. The safe was tossed out the window by Sis when she was unable to access it. I contacted my dad without delay. With an air of self-satisfaction, my sister confessed to having done it when my parents returned from work. By implying that I should never have obtained the safe, my mother attempted to take her side. However, my dad scolded her and said he obtained it on my behalf since he was fed up with my sister stealing from me. My mom would never return the money she took from me, so I had to rely on my dad to do it every time. In addition to having my entire window fixed, my dad also gave me a lock for my door and a combination key lockbox, which I keep next to my door, to protect my room key. The consequence of my sister smashing my window was a month of grounding. During that period, while her dad was there, she would only wallow in her room. Until my dad got off work, Mom always let her do what she wanted, like playing video games or watching TV. I refrained from speaking out since I was aware that my mom and sister would have intentionally made my life more difficult if I had. My sister finally turned to pestering me for more money when her month-long grounding ended, since she would spend all of her allowance. The fact that she never saves money is why I basically told her she would never repay the loan. Plus, I made up an IOU for laughs, in order to test her mettle before bringing it up in front of her dad. She rushed sobbing to her mom once again, ripping the paper in two, since I was being cruel to her. My mom would often attempt to get me to pay for her, but I would just tell her that dad would take care of it. Therefore, I would not be the one to give my sister any additional money. My mother then made an effort to have me enrolled at a military academy. However, her father forbade it. Additionally, I am quite confused as to why my dad did not assist me in opening a savings account during that time. I suppose that was just the way we did things to save it in cash. First update. When I managed to get my mom to come waltzing into my room, my sister tossed my safe out the window in my bedroom, so shortly after my dad provided me a safe to keep my money in, he also purchased me a deadbolt lock and a wall-mounted lockbox that needed a code to access the key. Together, my sister and I installed the lock and the lockbox while our parents were out of the house. Upon her return, my sister glanced at the lock on my door before hurriedly rushing to get Mom. They were both hailed by my dad and me as they sprinted up the stairs. My recollection leads me to paraphrase the following. My mother points and snaps her fingers a few times, asking, "What on earth is that? Dad, I need a door lock." I am well aware of what it is, Mom. So what gives? Since you never seem to care enough to reprimand or prevent our daughter from robbing Lucas or his chamber, I've decided to lock the door. No way, Mom. He's just 14 years old. My home is this. A door lock won't work for him. We own this house, Dad. Nonetheless, I paid off most of the mortgage and expenses when I last looked. The amount you pay is little. And it's getting old that Lucas is always the one who takes a hit because you're so biased toward your daughter. At the very least, I need you to provide the lockbox combination to me, Mom. No way, Dad, you say with a deadpan expression. Because you've proven that I no longer have faith in you. Once Mom lost her temper, she stomped wildly down the stairs. Instead of doing anything, my sister only pouted and limped off to her room. With the new lock, everything was okay. It became second nature for me to secure it whenever I stepped out of my bedroom. Every time I entered the code to retrieve the key, my mother and sister would look at me with wide eyes. However, I would always make sure to hide my hand or body to avoid their gaze. They were utterly opposed to it, but they were powerless to change it. Finally, at the end of the month, my sister begged me for $40 so she could get a video game that she really desired. You and I both know that you will never be able to repay the money that you borrow from me, so why do you keep doing it anyway? I promise to repay you, sis. You won't, I say. Every month, you blow through all of your funds in them. As usual, you'd prefer to blow your stipend on frivolous things than repay me. No, sis. I'm not. How about we put it to the test? All right, then. After that, I retreated to my room, retrieved some paper and a pen, and penned an IOU by hand. I had a contract that said my sister would repay me the $40 when she got her stipend. Oh, and the IOU, too. Dad was supposed to sign as a witness as well. In contract law, a witness is always necessary. After reading the paper, Sis began to cry. She slashed it in two before frantically running to her mom's side. She always resorted to this when she felt dissatisfied. Excuse me, Umi. My little princess is sobbing at home, Mama. Lucas, what was he up to now? I had her sign an IOU because she wanted to borrow money from me with Dad watching. After that, she went into a panic. Your mother asked why you would do it. A little loan was all she needed. Do you want to sign the IOU? Also, to guarantee that she remits the funds? Mom, you pathetic dweeb. I am exempt from signing anything. Then you should just give her the cash. Without an executed promissory note, I will not release you. Your mother, like your father before you, gets to her feet and raises an arm as if to strike me before quickly retracting it. For every single item, you must keep meticulous records. It annoys me. Now as I'm starting to make my way to my room, I'd tell you, Mom, that it's for the best that I'm just like my dad. Because being unique is so much better than being identical to your sister, who is never excellent for anything. Tell me, Mom, what the fuck you did there? Just as I locked myself in my bedroom and began to climb the stairs, my mom swung her body forward in a single move to unlock the door. The lock on my door had only been on for a short period of time when this happened. As a result, she had not yet acclimated to it. Even though I had locked the deadbolt, she proceeded to force her way into my home and banged her head against the door, making a somewhat audible sound. She threw herself on the floor and began to cry out in agony, which I then heard. She had banged her head and torso on the door really forcefully. The door was crafted from sturdy wood in an antique design. Additionally, it caused her to develop a fuller lip and a brow furrow. When I opened the door, I saw her splayed out on the floor, banging her fists. This is what you did to me, Mom. You're so little. You brought this on yourself, not me. You are being grounded, Mom. Leave my eyes. Afterwards, I contacted my dad, and he proceeded to grunt incoherently throughout our conversation. He assured me that I was still in serious trouble for provoking her, even if I wasn't grounded, and that he would handle her when he returned home. That was about it. That month, my dad gave me a harsh scolding, made me do more chores, and cut my stipend. From then on, whenever my sister needed money, I made her sign an IOU. That really irritated her. Second update. My mom falsified my dad's signature in an effort to get me sent to military school. Goes boom in her face. I think my mother is now more afraid that if she tried to hit me, it would end poorly for her, ever since I stood up to her when she threatened to slap me. For the most part, Mom only scolded me. She refrained from contacting me until the circumstances surrounding her desire for my house occurred several years later. I ignored it and went about my day as normal, juggling school and various jobs. My dad gave me an engine kit for my bike as a gift for my upcoming 15th birthday so I could ride around town with ease. According to him, I should put my money toward a vehicle instead of a scooter, and for the time being, this will suffice. I decided to keep saving for a car since I agreed with his reasoning. After mowing the yard a few days later, I was brushing the grass off the back patio when I came across a brochure for a military school. It was lying on the floor, beneath a chair, close to the spot where my mom enjoyed sitting with her glass of wine. I got the sneaking suspicion that she was hatching a wild plot. I patiently waited for my dad to return home before revealing my discovery to him. Despite his anger, he refrained from making assumptions. He then took the leaflet to my mom and asked her about it. Honey, Dad, what is this? No big deal, but just looking at the brochure makes Mom flush. It's completely new to me. Really, Dad? You already know that I would not approve of your proposal to send Lucas to military school. At that moment, Mom let her guard down and scolded him, telling him he has to behave himself. He constantly locks himself out of his room, and I've reached my breaking point with spanking him due to his size. Because he is such a defiant child, this is the last resort for me to discipline him. When he confronted you about your foolish partiality, Dad, Lucas did nothing wrong. Your tendency to treat our daughter and allow her to get away with stealing from her brother has made her act like a brat. In my opinion, we can now move on from the topic of sending Lucas to military boot camp. God forbid you attempt to send him. I will punish you severely in whatever way I can. My remaining influence in this house is going to be severely diminished, Mom. It seems like this entire family is out to get me. If I am not successful, I might as well not exist at all. You and I both know that, Dad, you would prefer to pass out than be insignificant. Lucas has finally grown up and is supporting himself financially, So there's no need to act like a drama queen. Mom abruptly left the room after that. Before school the next day, I witnessed her frantically attempting to cram something into the kitchen trash can. I discovered her hidden agenda after patiently waiting for her to depart for work. She had filled out the application for the military academy totally by hand. Both parents' or guardians' signatures were needed. The document had the marks of 2 hands. I knew it was my mom's. Another one, though, seemed like a feeble effort to imitate Dad's. His intricate and refined signature allowed him to pry it out on his own. My mom could never pass it off as her own without drawing suspicion. After being addressed, she apparently realized her mistake and stopped attempting to expel me. Later on, I showed my dad the documents that I had preserved. He was angry, but he decided she had done it before, so he let it go. But, as a precaution, he kept the paperwork at his office. My mother's romance with her high school ex-boyfriend became public knowledge a few more months later. My dad finally snapped and filed for a divorce after that. He acquired a new house a few months later, and I moved in with him. When Dad discovered that my mom had forged his signature on the military school paperwork, he wasted no time getting a divorce. And it wasn't all. Additionally, he possessed proof that she had altered his signature on a single application for a credit card. I also don't remember one other thing. They moved quickly through the court system as a result of Mom's fear of fraud charges and her agreement to most of his demands. Since Dad wasn't interested, Mom ended up with the house. My sister's decision to remain living with her explains why she also sought alimony and child support. My mom will be receiving child support and alimony payments for at least the next 10 years, according to the judge's ruling. In any case, the alimony barely covered my sister's stipend. That made Mom very angry, and she even threatened to take legal action. But for years, he dangled those forgeries in the air, hoping she'd finally give in. On the day I moved in with my dad, my sister smirked and stuck out her tongue, saying that Mother had informed her she was the more worthy sibling and a princess. That is why I was getting out of the house in the first place. Because I no longer cared, I merely shook my head and urged her to think about it however she liked. After that, I felt as light as a feather as I stepped out the door. My sister's weekly visits to my dad's residence only served to exacerbate our already strained relationship, and we eventually severed all communication after that. Further, I was not really interested in paying a visit to my mom's place. To make place for my home office, she essentially ripped out my old bedroom.